Okay, yes, sir.
I'm really impressed with the founders of the country for setting up the 3 branches. And in the 60s, roughly, Congress started delegating regulatory issues. So we have the delegation to executive branch. During the recent pandemic, there's a 30-day, in most states, 30-day period where you can declare an emergency. And what's happened, of course, is about a year and a half. I didn't see that in the Constitution.
Yeah.
But one of the problems is the governors delegate it then to the mayors and the mayor, so it's everybody's delegating. And it's, in my state, for a long time, you could go into a liquor store and buy liquor, but you couldn't go to church.
Yeah.
So my question is, I'd really like your perspective on the balance of the executive branch. You have sort of an interesting background there. I just wonder what your perspective is on how we distribute that power.
That's a great question, and quite frankly, I've said this to many people. I was governor for almost 11 years, which is an odd time, but I was lieutenant governor. The governor of the state was convicted of whitewater-related felonies. He had to resign. I became governor, filled out his term, and then was reelected for 2 full terms of my own. We used to say the 5 most feared words of an Arkansas politician were these: will the defendant please rise? Because it happens so often. I think Illinois has now eclipsed us in that. Louisiana was in the running for a while, but we had our share, that's for sure. But in that long length of time that I was governor, it never occurred to me that I could just do what I wanted to do and leave the legislature out of it. Now believe me, I would love to have done that. I've often said being governor is the greatest job in the world till the legislature comes to town. Then it becomes the most miserable moment in the world until they leave again. Then it's great again. There's always that natural conflict between the legislative and executive branches of government. I had, at the time when I started, the most lopsided legislature in all of America. And I bet most of you didn't realize that. You probably thought it was Massachusetts or even California. Nope, there were a lot more Republicans, percentage and numbers, in the legislatures of California and Massachusetts than in Arkansas. When I first got into office, the 100 members of the House, 89 Democrats, 11 Republicans. Senate, 31 Democrats, 4 Republicans. And the Republicans we had, quite frankly, they enjoyed going to all the nice fish fries and being invited to the cool parties, so they couldn't really be counted on a whole lot of the time. So I went in under the most extreme circumstances of having opposition from the moment I was sworn in. No one woke up that morning in the legislature and said, gosh, let's go down to the Capitol and see how we can make Huckabee look good. So I had a headwind that was just stunning. But let me tell you, over the course of years, now, by the way, our state is totally flipped. I was the only Republican when I first was elected, or ascended up in the state capitol. Now all 7 constitutional officers are. We only had 1 out of our entire congressional delegation Republican. Now they all are. The legislature, as I told you those numbers, now there's supermajority Republican held. But that was over a period of the last 25 years that took place. What I would tell you is that I learned how to govern because I was governing against the wind, if you will. More importantly, I knew that I couldn't just do what I wanted because I had an overwhelming majority of legislators that would have absolutely gone berserk, rightfully so, and would have sued me. It would have gone to a court that had been largely stacked the other direction. So when I've seen what's happening in the pandemic, and I've seen governors basically declare unlimited emergency powers, it scared the daylights out of me. And what I thought is, folks, governors don't have that authority, and they're acting as if they do. They do not have the authority to bypass their legislature. They should have been calling in their legislators, and whatever authority they had, whether it's to close something down or to give out money, they should have had legislative authority for that. And the governors, I'm afraid, have tasted a level of power that we may never take back from them. And I love the governor's role. I think it's the most important because of the 10th Amendment. But we've created a monster, and it's going to come back and bite us hard if we don't see it corrected. And what I would urge is that state legislators push back hard against governors who have overreached their power and their constitutional authority. And a bunch of them have. And it's a very dangerous thing for the future of the country. Yes, ma'am.